I'll be linking this crisis, the Afghan crisis, to the Chinese expansion in the region, in the Southeast Asian region, in the West Philippine Sea, because we've seen so far that China was loving what's going on, really, because the Chinese communists in Beijing understand that they can make money off this, like they did after the pullout of U.S. In Iraq, and we've seen so far that it's beginning to do some kind of partnership agreements with the Taliban government. But this is some kind of contradiction, because we all know that China has been like oppressing some Muslim ethnic groups in China. I mean, the Chinese government or the communist government has been oppressing these Uyghurs, the Chinese Uyghurs, who are Sunnis as well. Sunnis. And if we say Sunnis, they are in alliance with, or they pledge allegiance to any Sunni groups, whether we call them terrorist groups or separatist groups in the world. So like this news so far, so China's warm welcome for Taliban sparks backlash at home. So that's one thing that Chinese rulers have to consider, because they all know that Taliban has been allied with other Sunni terrorist and separatist groups, like of course the East Turkestan Islamic movement that has been blamed for a terrorist attack in Xinjiang. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but this is really exciting, to be honest with you. And another thing is that China sees to make a lot of profit from its partnership with the Taliban. But another thing that we need to consider is the fact that because of this crisis created by America in the region, right, China has become emboldened and even threatened to invade Taiwan. All right. So according to this news from PBS NewsHour, Taiwan's foreign minister says China is preparing for war. So according to Taiwan's foreign minister Joseph Wu, I think Beijing has been preparing for war against Taiwan, and that is what we've been seeing. They are preparing for it. If you look at the number of sorties, it's around 2,900 times that last year. So the threat has been increasing. And when we examine in a closer way, the Chinese sometimes even cross the middle line of the Taiwan Strait. And also, experts say that China has been using this crisis in Afghanistan to portray America under creepy Peter Joe Biden as weak and unreliable, to draw China, or not China, but Taiwan closer. And definitely, China can also use this propaganda talking point with the Philippines, as we've been having this military or territorial dispute with China for some time. But the problem is the Philippine president has been proving to be a Chinese lackey or puppet. And in fact, just recently, the president of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte, thanked a Chinese Xi for donating millions of doses of Sinovac to the Philippines. And it's really unfortunate, really, and ironic that the so-called bully president, the strong man Duterte, is afraid of China. Of course, psychologically, we know that a bully is afraid of a bigger bully, because that bully is nothing but a cowardly maniac. Just like a bully, all Duterte can do is oppress and attack and take on the weak and defenseless. But when it comes to a bigger bully like China, he's afraid. He's cowering in fear. And this is one proof that we have a bully but cowardly Chinese puppet president who's been kissing Chinese President Xi's ass for some times or for 3 years. So going back to China's partnership with the Taliban, and of course China's bullying in the Southeast Asian region, history is gonna tell us as to whether China is going to be the Taliban group's karma. I don't know what's gonna happen, whether Taliban is gonna have some conflict with its new Chinese rulers or partners, because these two groups are fundamentally opposites to each other. There's only one thing that's keeping them together, and that is their disdain of America. But we all know that China is oppressing Sunni Uyghurs in its territory in China, and that the Uyghurs in China and the Taliban have one thing in common. They are both Sunni Muslims, and all Sunni Muslims in the world, technically, they pledge allegiance to these separatist Sunni groups, the Jamaah Islamiyah, the Eastern Turkestan fundamentalist groups near China, Al Qaeda, etc. These are all Sunni groups, and probably they're just bidding time in order to become more powerful in the future. And of course, we all know that each group has its own interest. But let's listen to Singapore's founder Lee Kuan Yew's prediction that sounds eerily similar with the prediction of President Trump prior to all of this.
I'm not saying the Middle East is a distraction. I think trying to make a country out of Afghanistan is a distraction. There was no country for the last 30, 40 years. They've just been fighting each other since the last king was chased out.
Right.
How on earth are you going to put these little bits together? It's not possible.
So therefore you do what?
I'm not an expert, but in my simple mind, it strikes me that you won in Iraq, you won in Afghanistan, not because you fought the Taliban, but because you got the Northern Alliance to fight them.
Exactly.
And you provided the Northern Alliance with intelligence and the capabilities to bomb them and target them. And they captured the South. Oh.
You know, I love the humility of Lee Kuan Yew here. He understands the difficulty of occupying a country or a culture that has been at war for centuries or even for 1,000 of years, right? These people have been fighting against each other for centuries, really, and it's really impossible to occupy them. It's like occupying a new alien race that has its distinct culture or identity, because these people have its very distinct identity that is different from the rest of the world. Okay, these are fundamentalists. These are motivated by religion, and we cannot really compare these people, the Muslim fundamentalists, with the Catholics, because, for example, the Catholics are not as fundamentalist as this group who have been fighting to have their own Islamic territory. So they would like to have Islamic regime ruled by the words of the Quran. All right, that's different from say the Philippines, that is dominated by Catholics, but the Catholics do not want to have a theocratic government that is going to rule all over the Philippines, right? So that's the difference. Lee Kuan Yew understands the difficulty of occupying a Muslim land, really. And that's what President Trump had said as well, years prior to the disastrous pullout of Biden, right? Trump has been warning America and the world that we cannot be a global cap forever.